Let's compare the original Coolpad Legacy with the successor, the Coolpad Legacy Brisa. So the first thing that we're going to compare is the price. Now these phones have considerably gone down since they first came out, but they offer great value respectively. The original Legacy, it's on the left. That one is being sold right now for $60 on Boost. And the successor, the Legacy Brisa, the one on the right, that one is being offered for $80. So either way, if you pick these up, both of them are going to be way cheaper than pretty much all of the other phones, considering what the specs are to these phones. Next, both of these phones have 4G LTE. These don't have 5G. That's what's a hot seller right now. But those are pretty much reserved for more expensive, higher end phones. And they're coming towards the mid-range as well. But honestly, for everyday tasks, 4G will be fine for most people's daily activities. So it's not a big letdown that these are not 5G. And considering these are sub $100 devices, this is perfectly okay. Build quality are pretty much the same on both of these phones. They have a glass front with a plastic back. And yes, it's not going to have that glass back like premium phones, but the good thing about these phones is that if you drop them, it's not going to crack like glass, and they make these devices very lightweight. The original Legacy weighs in at 6 ounces, while the Brisa weighs in a little bit heavier at 6.7 ounces. So both of these phones have a pretty good screen. They have a full HD screen, which means both of these phones have a 1080 resolution on these. So what if you're looking at video or looking at a website or taking pictures or whatever, and it's going to look pretty good on the screen. The Legacy, the original one, has a 6.3-inch display, while the Brisa comes in a little bit bigger at 6.5 inches. So regardless, for the price, these both have very similar displays, and whatever you're watching on it will look pretty good. Both of these devices have a similar way to unlock the device. They use the regular, reliable rear fingerprint reader. It's a very classic way to unlock the device. It's not a Face ID. It's not under the display fingerprint reader like on some newer, expensive flagships, but they get the job done. It's a very quick way to unlock your device. The only thing is, if they're laying flat on a table, you have to lift up the device in order to unlock it. But at this price point, it's not a big deal. For charging these devices, they both use USB-C, which is a good thing. That's the standard. You find USB-C on low budget devices and on flagships. The other good thing about USB-C, obviously, is that you could charge this phone, different Android phones. You could charge laptops, Chromebooks, MacBooks, Windows PCs, tablets like the iPad. So pretty much that USB-C is very versatile. Both the original Legacy and the Brisa have the headphone jack, which is awesome. It gives a lot of people the chance to still use a pair of wired headphones, connect to the car via aux cord or a microphone, something that the flagship phones have been lacking. So it's good to see the headphone jack on both of these devices. The Legacy, the original one, is running an older version of Android. It's running Android 9, while the successor, the Brisa, has Android 10. So it's a one software update difference between these devices, but honestly, you're really not going to notice that much. Me personally, I don't care if it's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't see that many differences in Android updates. So you should be fine with either of these devices. Battery life on both of these phones is super good. They're exactly the same. They both have 4,000 milliamp batteries, which will definitely get you through most of the day, if not the whole day. And if you do manage to need to power up your device a little bit more, these two phones offer fast charging, or quick charging as they call it. So you just stick that on the charger, and you got a couple of minutes to charge up to full battery in not that long. So definitely a welcome sight to see fast charging on budget devices. You will see a difference of processors in these devices. That's probably what's gonna define these and differentiate them from each other. The original Legacy has a Snapdragon 450 processor, while the Legacy Brisa has a newer Snapdragon 665. You may notice a faster experience on the Brisa, but for most apps you probably will not notice it, because even some phones today are still being sold with the Snapdragon 450. Both devices are equipped with 3 gigs of RAM, which is perfectly fine. Most people will never tax that 3 gigs of RAM unless you're opening tons and tons of apps. If you are, then you should look to a more flagship capable device. But I believe for the people that are looking at these budget devices, 3 gigabytes of RAM is looking pretty good, especially for the prices that these are being offered at. The storage on both of these devices are the same. They have 32 gigs of storage, which for most people should be enough. There's a population of the people using smartphones that 32 gigabytes is not nearly enough. But luckily, you could stick a micro SD card in these devices and upgrade for like $20. You can get a 128 gigabyte SD card off Amazon, and you're good to go. So internal storage could be a little bit more, but for the price, this seems very reasonable. Next, let's move on to the camera setup. Both of these have double cameras in the back. They don't seem that much different from each other. It's probably gonna be personal preference. I mean, if I had to say which one's gonna be better, it's gonna be the newer device. But both of these have a 16 megapixel main shooter and a secondary 5 megapixel shooter. Both film video at 1080p. So for most people, these phones cameras should be very sufficient for most people's needs shopping at this price point. And if you're shooting outside or in good lighting, you should get a good video, a decent picture, especially if you're just sending a short video or picture to your friends in a message or uploading to social media. But if you're a little bit more into video editing and video creation, I would look somewhere else, unless you really have like a tripod or a gimbal or something to help out with video on these devices. But overall, these are decent devices at the least, at the very minimum. The selfie camera on the original Legacy has a 13 megapixel front-facing camera shooting at 1080p. And the Legacy Brisa has a 16 megapixel selfie camera also shooting at 1080p. So you should get crispy videos and pictures off the front-facing camera. So basically, both of these devices are good for your basic apps that most people use. I use Netflix, music streaming services. I listen to podcasts on Spotify, cloud storage with Google Drive, Google Photos, Maps, Twitter, Facebook, IG, TikTok, sending messages with WhatsApp, Telegram. I do video chats. Now, if you do gaming, it's going to run most games, except not super big, intensive, heavy games. If you're looking for that, you should get a flagship or just a higher quality processor to handle that. A couple of extras to make these devices even better is I would suggest getting a Bluetooth headphone, a smartwatch or smartband for notifications and fitness. If you're gaming, get an Xbox controller. It helps out a lot. You could use these devices to send media to like a Chromecast or a Roku or something like that. If you have smart speakers, this is going to be good to connect to it and control it and set it up. And since these are Android devices and it has that SD card slot, you could use it. I would suggest getting that $20 128 gig from Amazon and you're good to go. So yeah, these are impressive devices. I like the amount of RAM. I like the 3 gigs of RAM. I like the micro SD card slot, headphone jack, and the processors seem pretty good because they're at least Snapdragon branded processors. And the batteries are pretty good with fast charging. So yeah, these phones at these price points of $60 or $80 are exceptional devices to get. So thanks guys for watching. Peace.